voila, it's so hot. Hi my friend, welcome back to the Basic Stitch Knitting Podcast. This is episode 8. Thank you for choosing to spend some time with me today in my humble room in Hong Kong. I'm Celine. I can be found on Ravelry as Ochya, O-C-H-Y-A, and on Instagram as basic.stitch.knitting. And I realize I've never actually explained why Ochya, what Ochya means. Ochya is actually a name or pseudonym, if you like, that I've been using online for a long time. Now, stop looking online for Ochya and see what. I don't have MySpace, I don't have anything like that. Ochya means actually green tea. In Japanese, green tea is called Ochya. So Ochya is actually like, I try to play with the word Ochya. And also, when I was a kid, or maybe still, I easily get bruised everywhere. And Ochya is actually bruising. It means like black and green in some Chinese dialect. To be accurate, it's Hokkien dialect or the Taiwanese dialect. Ochya. I can't speak that dialect actually, but there are members of my family who do, so I know that means bruising. So my name Ochya actually means green tea and bruises. So mini updates. What happened in the last 2 weeks in Hong Kong, and particularly to me? So I, of course, bought something off Wool Warehouse again because, as we all know, Drops was doing their May sales. I don't know, it seems to be a thing. Maybe they do a big sales every May. And they do their sales on wool that has wool or alpaca, like not cotton. And you just have to buy some, right? I didn't buy a lot because I'm really wanting to branch out and try other yarn. When I first bought Drops, I was all about experimenting with the yarn. And now that I think I have tried, well actually I have not tried a lot of their yarn. It's just that I've bought different yarn from them. So if I want to try their cotton, I have their saffron to try. And I have Nepal, I have Alaska, Lima, Charisma, Fable, and what's missing? I've even bought their alpaca, but I've not tried that yet. But yes, I have finally bought something that everybody is raving about, and that is the Flora. It's not gonna be a big haul because it's going to be really boring. Just look at it. First of all, I love Wool Warehouse. I love this bag they come with. I don't know what it's called. And then look at the boring color. Just some gray and navy, like blue and black. I don't know, I've knit with black yarn before a long time ago, but what I find about it is it's so difficult to knit with it because you can't see whatever you're doing there. But at the same time, I really like to wear black. I like to wear black and navy. You can see, this is almost my uniform. You know, if you see I wear like a navy t-shirt every time, you might think, oh, she doesn't change. The thing is, I have a lot of navy t-shirts, and most of the time I got them from Uniqlo because it's so good. Do you care about that? That's just some extra information. Of course, needless to say, when I was buying these yarn, I was having a sweater in my mind. I don't know what happened to me. Like, I really want to knit a lot of sweaters because there are a lot of beautiful sweaters pattern out there. And also, like what I mentioned in the last episode, whenever I buy new yarn, I just go for sweater quantity because it's like the safest option, except when I buy sock yarn, of course. So these are the color that I bought. I bought a lot of the gray Nepal and a lot of the navy blue, but it actually doesn't look like navy blue to me. It looks like a midnight blue maybe. Ooh la la. And I don't remember what this is. It's like a blue-green color, and it's really beautiful. I basically just bought 1 to 2 skein of it, maybe just one, to see what color it actually looks like in real life. I don't know, I hope Drops actually do shade card, because they offer a lot of color across different ranges, but I hope they have shade cards, because what I'm doing now is that I sometimes just buy one skein of everything just to see what it actually looks like in real life, and then I don't really know what I can do with it. Like one skein, I will have to do color work, because of how I buy things. So yeah, I hope I have a shade card, or I don't know. And then I bought Flora in black. I know everybody's talking about Flora and how it's really good. Well, okay, I'll let it focus a little bit. And I should probably try a different color, but I don't know why. I just really want to have something black. Flora is the fingering weight version of Nepal, I believe. Yeah, alpaca and wool. So they have the same components, but this one is in Aran weight and this one is in fingering weight. And to be fair, it actually feels a little bit thinner than what I expect, because from what my experience, for example, for the wool and alpaca line, or for the pure wool line, DK usually feels a little bit like worsted, and the worsted usually feels a little bit like Aran, like the thicker side of it. So I would think Flora would be like a thicker fingering, but like sports, but apparently it's just a fingering weight yarn. So yeah, well, maybe it's like quite true to the description, because if you try the alpaca line, they usually feels a little bit thinner. Like the DK alpaca, pure alpaca, which is called Puna, feels a little bit like fingering to me. And the alpaca, which is the fingering alpaca line, feels like light fingering to me. Yeah. Does it make sense to you? I hope so. If it doesn't, just play back or slow down or whatever. Don't really want to repeat it. So yes, nothing special. And other than that, in the last 2 weeks, Hong Kong has been very, very, very hot. Like, I don't know why on Snapchat the temperature count is always 31 degrees Celsius, but actually I know it's not. According to the Hong Kong Observatory, it's usually 34. And yesterday I think it's 35. It's really hot, especially when I walk to office in the day. The sun is like super hot. Sometimes, after a winter, you just forget how hot it can be. It's just unimaginable. I'm like, but in the office, it's so cold. It's blasting the AC. So last week, I actually got sick. Last 2 weeks, I think. But luckily, it wasn't something really bad, but I had to take a sick leave one day, and I was so sick that I couldn't really knit. So, the hot weather means no knitting mojo, plus being sick means no energy to knit even if I want to. So in the last 2 weeks, I didn't really knit a lot. So what I'm showing you today, like my projects, will be quite similar to the ones I showed you last episode. But I don't think that's a problem, because my last episode, which is episode 7, actually hit a record low in terms of the view rate. I wonder why. Like, I'm not saying that I wonder why I'm so popular. Why is the view rate so low? No, it's just that it's unusually low. I think it's because I separated the episode into 2 parts, and the first part was all about my English, like my trip to England. And the second part was back to my normal, like, nitty-bitty, like, knitting things. But, I guess it's just that maybe a lot of you are not really interested in my trip in England. You're, like, here just for the knitting content, which is totally fine. I think it's fair. But then the least amount of OCD in us all make us feel like I didn't watch part 1, so I don't want to watch part 2. So the view count for both parts are pretty low. So I think, again, if you really don't care about the travel bit and you are normally quite interested in the knitting bits, you can go to part 2. Part 1 and part 2 are completely unrelated. You don't, I think there is some problem with the naming. Maybe I shouldn't even call it like part 1 of episode 7. I should do like, travel log travel log video, and then the part 2 will just be episode 7. But whatever, it happened, and don't really want to change the title because I did talk about the part 1 and part 2 in the video, so don't want to confuse you further. Anyway, if you're not really interested in that, don't worry, because the projects I'll be talking about today will be very similar to the ones that I talked about last week anyway. Last 2 weeks, so, yeah, maybe it's a good thing so that I can talk about the same thing without feeling really guilty. Okay. One thing I forgot to mention is that I am a yarn sniffer, as you all know probably if you have been watching more than 2 episodes of this podcast. And I usually quite like the smell of the wool from jobs. They always smell very woolly, but for some reason the wool this time, it doesn't smell woolly at all. Yeah. And worse, like, it smells a little bit bad. It smells... I don't even want to use the word commercial because it is commercial yarn. But Flora doesn't smell good. It smells very synthetic. If you see what I mean. And they don't really smell like anything. The gray one smells a little bit woolly, but not as woolly as what I expected. Yeah, I don't know what happened. Like, I know color does change from batch to batch. That's why, you have different dye lots. But does the smell also change from batch to batch? I don't know, that's a little bit weird. Anyway, slightly disappointed because of that. So first of all, I would like to talk about some disasters that happened with my knitting last week. First, I showed you last time a pair of socks that I was knitting for myself. It's let me look for it here. So last week I showed you an unfinished pair of the socks, and it's still not finished actually. Because, well, it's not tube socks, it's supposed to be tube socks with afterthought heels. And I was planning to do the method without using scrap yarn, and that's why I have these 2 cute little stitch marker on the row that I plan to do, to cut the yarn. Does it look weird to you? Does it look like a necktie to you? Because it does look like that to me. If I connect them, maybe it can become like a necktie for a kid. I don't know. Anyway, so I haven't been knitting for myself for a long time, and I forgot how many stitches I usually cast on for myself. I thought I usually cast on 52 stitches, but when I tried on, it is too tight in a sense that the foot part is actually okay, but then here, it's too tight, the leg part. And I actually noticed that it might be too thin, so I increased 4 stitches for the ribbing. Like, in the last row of the stockinette stitch, I did 4 stitches increase. So this is like 56 stitches, but it's still too tight. So, I was like, that kind of feeling when you finish the whole pair of socks, kind of, and then you realize it's really too tight for anybody. I let my mom try it on, and it's still too tight for her, and she has a smaller feet. So, it's definitely something that I need to rip back. Maybe I'll rip back to this part, like to rip the whole legs back, so that I can at least wear it. I don't know, but it's such a frustration that I don't really want to deal with it now, so it will be an UFO, unfinished object, until one day I feel okay about, ripping it back. And the second disaster, oh my god, I bought a skein of unknown yarn online. It's not exactly online, but it's like an app. It's called Carousel, I think. It's a Hong Kong-based selling app, I believe. And I saw a big skein of yarn selling for 15 Hong Kong dollars, which is like, I don't know, 1.5 pound? 1 pound? I don't know. So it's very cheap, and I don't know what it is. I believe it's acrylic, and but I don't care because £1 for a big ball of acrylic is still very cheap, and I don't know. I just bought it, and unknown skein of yarn. I don't know the content of the yarn. I don't know the yardage. I don't know the weight. So recently I decided to use it to knit something, but the first step to decide what to knit that with would be to decide the yardage, right? I don't even know the weight. I mean, weight in terms of, I don't know how much it weighs, like in terms of gram, and I don't know whether it's DK or an Aran, but it does look like a DK to me. Well, there is a way to find out the weight of your yarn. You can just wrap it on like a pencil or whatever to find the WPI, I believe. But I really want to try to figure out the yardage of that skein of yarn. I'm not going to show you right now. It's right here with me. It's actually so big. It's bigger than my face. I believe you will all know the correct method to find out the yardage from an unknown yarn would be, first of all, you'll need to have a scale, a very sensitive scale, like a scale that can sense 20 grams or 10 grams of things on it. And then you will want to weigh a small portion of the yarn to measure the length of that small portion of the yarn, because it's more manageable, you see. So say, for example, you measure 5 grams of the yarn you have, and then you measure with a tape how long is in 5 grams. Say, for example, 5 grams, there's 20 yards. And then you want to measure the whole skein of yarn, that says 100 grams. So what you need to find out, the X, the unknown, is the total yardage, right? So the formula will be like this. This is 5 grams, which is the weight of the yarn of that small portion. And then 20 yards is the length of yardage in 5 grams. And 100 grams is the total weight of that unknown skein of yarn. And you are looking for X. So, so it's pretty easy. It's really easy algebra. But my problem is I don't have a scale. So, I was trying to look for alternative to do it. And what I did was that I took a skein of yarn and then I wound it around my wind shift. Do you call it? I don't remember what you call it. I put it on a wind shift, and you can also put it on like a chair. You can just surround it on a chair, but it's gonna be really, labor intensive. It's actually labor intensive to use the wind shift. Do you call it wind shift or wind shift? I don't know. Wind shift, maybe. Or maybe it's not even a shift. Whatever. So what I did was I need to hold the yarn from the skein of yarn there. And then I need to use my hand to move the wind shift. And it's really tiring, and it's a big ball of yarn, and I was like, okay, I'm doing it, patience. And this is, like when I'm dealing with yarn, I think it really trains my patience, because I learned how to actually ignore my frustration. Say, for example, when there is 1 knot, or when there are like 10 knots when you're trying to wind your ball of yarn, I feel frustrated, but I learned how to ignore my frustration and keep my head down and continue to just do whatever I need to do. So the problem is, though, when I adjust the width of the wind shift, for some reason, I don't know why, I make it very narrow, and it's a big ball of yarn, so it actually becomes really thick around the wind shift. So what I was planning to do is actually, after having like a hank of yarn, I can just hold it like this and then measure the length from one end here to another, and then calculate to count how many strands they are, and then I can times, the weight, the width. It is extremely not smart But that's what I could think of. That's what I, from my little brain, that's what I could think of. And the problem happens when I remove the hang of yarn from the windshift. It becomes something like this. Ta-da! Oh my god. Like this. There will be a lot of, knots to deal with. It will all be tangled up. So I'm like, this is like the largest fail in history. If you have like a bigger fail story than this, let me know. I'm interested in knowing. So share with me under, in the comment or in Ravelry group or in Instagram. Share with me your fail story so that I can feel better. And I'm so proud of myself because I didn't go crazy and, cut it or whatever because it's like $15. So what I did was I put it in the drawer, close the drawer, and not look at it. That's my knitting disasters that happened last 2 weeks, and luckily that's it. Next I'm going to talk about my knitting progress. So in this episode I have 1 FO, and I feel a little bit like cheating because I actually showed this project last episode, and when I was showing it, it was already 4 or 8 rows from finishing. So yeah, anyway, it's I don't even know which one is the right side. Yeah, this is the right side. This is Spa Day face cloth, I believe, and I knit it with Stylecraft Classic DK cotton yarn in the colorway Poppy. Yay, I memorized everything. I don't even have it on my show notes. So these are not woven in, which are totally fine, because I actually want to I think this is going to be a Christmas gift. It's so red and so Christmas, and I actually plan to give it to a friend originally anyway, because she is allergic to wool. And I don't know if the camera is catching this, like the stitches. It's so beautiful, and my mom actually likes it so much. When she saw it, she's like, it looks so neat and tidy, but it's actually very, very simple. It's a free pattern on Ravelry called Spa Day Face Cloth. I'm going to put everything in the show notes. This is the wrong side. Very easy, and I want to knit more. Not like I love knitting it, because it's like so simple that it bores me out quite a bit, but I can imagine it in like a more natural color, I think, and my mom likes it, so I want to knit one for her, and maybe one for my aunt. Yeah, it's like a gift knitting project. And I only plan to weave this in when I want to give it away. And the next project I'm going to talk about is a work in progress, and it is my cozy Saturday sweater designed by Elena Nodal, and it's a paid-for pattern on Ravelry, and it's really, really a beautiful pattern. So this is it. I have finished 1 sleeve. If you're on Instagram, on top of your first page of your Instagram, there will be like circles of other people's profiles. It's like, a Snapchat function where you share your story. And if you're on Instagram, I shared my story before because I was struggling between knitting a full sleeve or like mid sleeve, because I really like mid sleeves. But a lot of people actually told me they prefer it to be in long sleeves. So yes, if I ask for an opinion, I'll try my best to listen to the opinion. Last episode, I actually talked about wanting to frock this sweater because when I was knitting it up, it was a little bit too tight on me. I mean, I could wear it definitely, but it's not a very flattering fit because like what I said, there is a lack of something up here, and if I'm knitting something or if I'm wearing something that's really tight, as in sweater, I can look like completely flat. Like, okay, flat-chested sisters. Be proud of your body. I'm proud of my body. It's just that sometimes aesthetically, I just feel like, you know, if I'm wearing like a tight t-shirt, it's okay because there's still a little bit of difference you can see. But if it's like a tight sweater, because of the nature of sweater, how, you know, it's like a little bit thick and it's not really clinging to your body, it can be really unflattering. The sleeve actually feel a bit too tight now, but as I know now, it's just a steam blocking away from perfect fit. And I post this photo on Instagram and it is receiving a lot of love from a lot of people, and thank you very much. And one thing I'm really proud about this sweater is Stacey from the Very Pink Knit has recently uploaded a video on closing the gaps on the underarm of a raglan sweater. And she said, you know, she almost always have holes at the armhole area because it's not about how a good knitter you are, how experienced you are, you will always have holes. So the tutorial was about how to, you know, afterwards use the waste yarn. Not exactly the waste yarn, but yeah, is it called waste yarn? Like the, you know, the bit of yarn here that you're supposed to weave in to actually close the gap. It's a very useful tutorial. But luckily I don't need it this time because I don't have a hole. I don't have a hole here. I don't know if you can see it. Like, okay. I'm definitely not saying I'm better than Stacey because I'm pretty sure she's just being humble. I've seen other tutorials about how not to have holes, and I think she's just trying to really be very understanding. And yeah, but what I did here, I don't have holes on the second sleeves as well, if you can see. And what I did is simply to pick up more stitches than suggested. Say in this pattern for this size, you know, you have to pick up different stitches for different sizes. For my size, I need to pick up 8 stitches in total, like 4 stitches and then place marker and 4 stitches. But what I did for my first sleeve is I picked up 6 stitches and then 6 stitches. So I picked up in total 12 stitches instead of 8 stitches. That's 4 stitches more. And I feel okay about it because basically on the next round you'll do the decrease, right? And according to this pattern, according to my size, I need to decrease from 8 stitches to 6 stitches. So what I did instead is I decrease more. Like in that round, instead of doing 2 decreases, I think I did 6 decreases. Yeah, from 12 to 6. That's how I avoid the hole. And on my second sleeve, I tried to pick up 12, but it's impossible. So I picked up 6 and then place marker and then 4, I think. Yeah. I couldn't find another 6 places where I could pick up stitches, so, or else it will look pretty weird. So I try not to force it. So when I decrease it on the next round, I decrease 6 to 3, so that's like 3 decreases. And then from 4 to 3, that's 1 decreases. Hopefully next time I show this to you, it will be completed with like the neck ribbing and everything. I don't know, it's just really too hot to work on it because it will unavoidably want me to sit on my lap, so it's quite difficult to knit. And the yarn is Cumbria, the fiber Co. The color I think is called Buttermere. And so far, this is officially my favorite yarn. I really want to knit with this forever and ever and ever. I want to have a lot of Cumbria. I don't know about other yarn from the same company because I've never tried them, but this one, I love them. It's like, it's not the cheapest yarn out there. It's quite expensive, to be honest. And I think it's quite expensive. I think it was like £17, and I bought 4 skeins for my sweater quantity. I usually knit like the smaller sizes, and my hobby is to play a little bit of yarn chicken. So yeah, but apparently it's fine this time. I think I have enough yarn for a sleeve and also the neckline ribbing, I think. And it's like the best yarn I've ever had. I really want to do a separate review video for this because that's how much I love it. I'm going to rave over it. I'll try to be like impartial in that video, but I really like it and I want to knit with this forever and ever. And the last project I'm showing you is a pair of mitts I've been knitting. So I have a finished, well, not exactly finished because I still have the thumb to put in, and this is a mitt that I plan to knit for my friend, and then the second one is here. Right, and I forgot to put in the thumb hole, which I think will be fine. I'm going to do like the afterthought heel kind of, to insert the needle on the row above and below the row that I want to cut the yarn. I think it will be doable. It's fine. I don't necessarily have to use the waste yarn. The pattern I use is Quo Vadis from Spilly Jane. And I'm not exactly using it because I'm just incorporating it and make some modification. And for how I modified the pattern, you can refer to part 2 of episode 7 or the project page of this project. So, okay, whatever. The yarn I'm using for this mitt is Lopi from Istax. This is Icelandic wool, very, very rustic, extremely scratchy. The experience of knitting with it has been, I would say, fun. It's not the most enjoyable because it's really hard to control the tension. Like, there isn't a thing called tension control in knitting with this yarn because I won't, I just don't want to pull on it, even because it actually breaks quite easily, and which is not really a big problem because even if it breaks, you can easily just file them together. But still, it's more fun than enjoyable, like knitting with completely new things. But I think it also has to do with the fact that I'm using a pair of needles that I hate. Really, look at how stiff it is. Look at how thick the cord is. And then I just don't like it. It's arrow needles that I bought very, very early on. Arrow needles are the easiest to find in Hong Kong, and they are the worst. I mean, when I was beginning, I didn't know what's good and what's bad, so it was fine. But when I started to use like Eddie and Haya, you just don't want to go back to Arrow, and I now just want to have more Haya and Eddie. But my problem is I prefer buying things from Wool Warehouse than Darren Morris, but Wool Warehouse, their collection of needles are not the best. They don't even have Eddie treble, I don't think. Yeah. So again, for more information about this mitt, you can definitely go back to my last episode and the project page. And actually the same thing for the projects that I showed just now. You can either refer back to episode 7 part 2 or my project pages. So now I'm going to talk about some dream knitting. I've been really wanting to knit a new shawl because I've been using my campsite shawl religiously every day in the office because it's like, I feel like it's actually way more versatile and more practical than a sweater, because I still feel a bit weird bringing my winter sweater into the office, even though my office is definitely winter weather. But a shawl is really good, as in you can wear it in so many different ways. You can just put it over your shoulders, or when it's colder, you can wrap it around your neck, and it's really like light and again very versatile. I never really thought I would use it so much because in Hong Kong, it's not like a shawl wearing society really. Nobody wears shawl, not even like old ladies. And I thought I wouldn't really wear it, but I'm really wearing it a lot, and I just the benefit and how good I feel when I'm wearing it just outweighs anything. I just don't care what people think. And there's really something about wearing the thing that you knit for yourself. It's like, oh my god, I feel so much self-love when I'm working. So I really want to knit another shawl, and having, being able to wear it in office in mind, because I spend my time in office 5 days a week. So yeah. But the problem is I can't really find a pattern that I really feel the passion about. When I was starting to knit campsite shawl, I really wanted to knit it. I love how it looks. So I don't know, maybe I just want to create a pattern for myself, like design my own shawl. It's not like I'm not saying my design will be better than the designs available out there. It's just now that I don't feel love for any project, it has nothing to do with the patterns out there. It's just, I don't know, it might be just the knitting mojo thingy that I don't feel like really casting on a shawl, even though in my mind I really want another shawl. So I was thinking maybe taking the time to design one for myself is an alternative if I don't want to cast on a new shawl right now. Does it make sense to you? But I don't know, I've never really designed anything before, and it will be interesting. The next thing I really, really want to cast on is a pair of socks, a new pair of socks, because I don't want to deal with my old socks. And Bakery Bears podcast is having their BBOPALKAL, Bakery Bears Opal Cal, because Opal yarn is one of Kay's favorite sock yarn, and I happen to have one skein of Opal yarn, so I don't even have to pick from, like, a lot of people are actually try to choose from their Opal stash and look for a skein that they want to use on this Cal, but I just have one skein of Opal yarn, so I don't even need to choose. I love not having to choose. It's so appropriate for me to join the Cal because I bought this yarn because of Kay, because Kay loves it. So yeah, and I have the ball band here inside. I don't exactly want to. Okay, I took it out. It's Opal, and the colorway is Strong Good Tripolt. Yes, I love butchering another language. It's so fun. And the picture here looks like this. And look at how beautiful it is. This is going to be a pair of socks from my boyfriend. And originally I thought it's red, but it's actually more pinkish than red because, when it's like think about white strand of yarn and then you try to dye it with red pigment, but then it's not fully absorbed, or it's not the whole strand of yarn is covered with the red dye. So there's like speckles, like a little bit of white and a little bit of red, and it turned out to be pink when you see it from like a distance. And it has a little bit of like rusty orangish red, and then raspberry color, bit of dark gray that is almost black, and some cream color apricot. It's just really beautiful. And my problem is I really like to knit 2 at a time sock now, but like what I said, I don't have a scale, so I can't really. When I was winding the ball, I can't really wind it into like 2 skein of 50-gram ball. So I don't know, and this is 100-gram ball. So maybe I just need to try my luck and knit the socks for my boyfriend, and I don't know what I can do about it. My boyfriend likes to have taller socks. It means I will definitely need to exhaust the whole 50-gram ball when I'm knitting socks for him. And if I'm not able to knit, if I'm not able to separate this skein of yarn into 2 50-gram balls, it means I run the risk of knitting, the first pair of socks with 60 gram, and then the second sock with 40 grams. That's why I like to do like 2 at the same time, 50-gram ball, especially when I'm knitting for my boyfriend. But I just really want to cast on ASAP because I want to be able to rush to the finishing line at least of the BBOPALKAL. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to buy a scale. I have ask my friend to help me to buy one online, and then I will start to cast on one sock, and when I receive the scale, I will measure that sock and see, or like the remaining yarn, whether it's 50 gram, and then I will stop whenever it's like 50 gram or like 49 gram. So there's definitely a lot of other patterns I would like to knit, although I said I don't really have the knitting mojo with me. But I guess I'll just talk about them in the future episode, or when I actually cast them on, because I don't want this episode to go on and on and on. So, right, that's it for the episode today, and thank you for watching. If you have any questions or comments, just comment down below, or find me on Ravelry or Instagram, and hope to see you again 2 weeks later. Bye-bye!